Now let's talk about adding materials and changing lights. So up to this point, we've been using the same red wax material on our model. If you ever want to change the material of the model that you're working with, all you have to do is come over here to the material palette, open it up, and there's a bunch of different materials that you can choose from. There's a standard material section and then a matte cap material section, which are materials that are meant to give you more of a feel of some real world things. And so we've got red clay, we've got this sort of green Roma clay kind of a look, also kind of a matte cap gray. Can get some shinier sort of looks. There's a lot of different looks, and all you have to do to change the material that you're looking at is simply click on that material, and that'll actually change the working material that you're using. So what that means is we don't yet have material linked to these polygons, and when we talk about the polygons, we haven't really talked about this. You'll go over it more when you go through the intro, but in ZBrush they use what's called pixels, P-I-X-O-L-S. And it's basically the idea that each pixel contains depth information, and it also contains color information and material information. So in order to actually assign materials to our objects, we need to kind of fill them with the material. And it's separate from the color, which we'll paint in a little bit. And so you can see right now nothing is filled, and so whatever material that I select, it's being used for the model. So this is great for when you're actually sculpting. You can find a material that works, that brings out the detail the way that you like, and you can just have that material sitting there assigned to your model. Okay. Now if you want to modify the materials at all, for instance, we'll go into just the basic, let's say the basic material. What I'm going to do is just make sure that the material palette's open, and we can access that up here. Just drag it over if it's not. We've got our basic material selected. We can come down here under modifiers, and we can start to change how this material looks. So right now we've got the diffuse set to 80. So if we wanted to darken it up and reduce the diffuse contribution, we could do that, or we could increase it. We could also come in here and let's make it shinier by increasing the specular. So you can see it's really, really shiny now. And we can come into the curve and we can say, okay, I want to really tighten up that specular highlight. And so we can modify that curve. Then we can take the specular amount down a little bit more to take the total specularity down, and you can see how that affects the model. Okay, there's lots of different options in here, and if you're interested in modifying materials, we do have training on that as well. If you want to get a little bit more into modifying that. Okay, one other thing we might want to do is maybe give sort of a subsurface kind of a look, kind of a fake, and so we can use the wax modifier to do that. If we increase that, it's going to tell us we have to also turn that on in the render, and so we're going to come to render, turn on our wax preview, and you can see it gives you just kind of a little bit of a glow in there. If I turn it up, you can really see it. It gives you sort of a kind of a candle wax sort of a look, and so that may be something that you like as far as going in and modifying your materials. I found that the skin shade is a good one as well, and you can turn that on, and so you can come in and modify and change your different materials. Now keep in mind that your materials are based on the slot. So if you were to load in a new material on a specific slot, if you don't save that out, it's going to read whatever material is in that slot next time it opens the file. So keep that in mind. Okay, you can save out materials if you create your own custom material. You can save that out, certainly. So in addition to changing the material, we can also change the lighting. And so let's go into light. And you can see right now we have one light. We can open up the properties. You can see that it has shadows. You can see that it has a certain intensity. You can see the color of the light right there. And so what we can do is I can start to add additional lights, or I can just move this one around just by clicking on this little dot. I can move the position of that light. Let's increase it a little bit. Let's create a new light by clicking on this new icon, and we'll come in and bring it in over to the side. Let's make it more of kind of a bluish color. And so you can see as we click on each one of these lights, you can see where that light is coming from, as well as the intensity and the color of the light. So we can start to, add additional lights in there if we want to. Keep in mind that these lights aren't going to work as well with your matte cap materials, the lighting effect, because the materials actually have that sort of built in as far as where the light's coming from. But you can use light caps to do that. And again, if you want to get more in depth on some of that, we do have training for it. If you want to take a look at a little bit nicer view of it, you can always do a render. So this would be like a BPR render. It's a best preview render. Shift R will allow you to do that, and it just gives you a nicer view. But you can always come in and start to rotate that around, and then you're back out into your regular view. Now to fill our objects with material, let's come in and choose like a white color, and let's get like this toy plastic. And so I've got white selected with this toy plastic material, and I've got the eye selected here as my subtool. So I've got RGB on here. I'm going to go up to color, and I'm just going to fill the object. Let's do the same thing here. Color, fill our object. Now if I go back in and choose the basic material, you can see that it still has that material on there. It's actually still changing it. The reason for that is that it's only filled it with color because we only had the RGB on. If I want to go to material and color, I have to choose mRGB. Now if I go back to toy plastic with our white selected, let's go ahead and fill our object. And we'll do the same thing here, fill object. And now when I go back to the basic material, you can see the body changes, but the eyes stay the same. They are still assigned now. They're filled with that toy plastic material, which gives them a little bit more reflectivity, which I think is kind of what we want. All right, so next, once we've got some of the materials assigned, and I would go ahead and you could assign a material if you wanted to the body here, along with, I would assign a white color, but we'll go through all that in a second. We're going to go in the next lesson and begin to actually paint some texture on this character. So let's go ahead and do that next.